Hi, I'm Mike, creator of the BluesBlock method. Thanks for stopping by. If you'd like to know how this method could help you with your blues improvisation, then stick around and I'll walk you through the course. Let's face it, playing a guitar solo is hard enough, but improvising, literally composing music in the moment and on the fly, it's a whole new level of difficult. Why? Because there's so much going on and your brain, well, it just gets overloaded. You know how it goes. You put on a backing track or you're with your band and your head is swimming. What key? What position? What chords are playing? What's the timing? The result? I'm sure you know it. You move into survival mode. A safe and comfortable place where you just end up recycling some go-to licks or run up and down the scale in one position. Boring for you and very boring for anybody listening. Good news, the BluesBlock improvisation method changes all of this by removing the load on the brain, freeing it up and allowing you to be creative, relaxed and confident with your soloing. So stick with me and I'll walk you through how it works. First, we need to take a look into the working mind of a guitarist so that we can really appreciate the layers of complexity involved in improvisation, and then see how the BluesBlock method removes the stumbling blocks. Okay, here we are. First of all, to improvise well, you need to know the pentatonic scale positions all over the fretboard for the key or keys you're playing in. And let's be honest, it doesn't matter how you break up the positions. They're not easy to remember, and just this task alone takes up so much of your brain's resources that you really need while you're improvising. And even if you have managed to memorize the typical pentatonic box positions, you probably find yourself jumping from one box to another rather than fluidly navigating the entire fretboard and truly understanding how everything connects to the chords over which you're playing. To really be able to solo over chords, you must know the notes on the fretboard, and here you find yourself swimming in alphabet soup, draining even more precious brain power. And the real kicker? Every time you change key to solo over a particular chord, the notes all change as well. No wonder improvising is difficult. You're so busy processing everything, it just becomes too much. Your brain approaches meltdown, and that safe place, the repeated riff or scale pattern, becomes your go-to. Well, imagine if, instead of random patterns, you could use just one pattern, a blues block that is actually made up from the blues scale. Imagine if, instead of alphabet soup, we used numbers. Imagine if, when you moved the pattern, the numbers stayed in the same position. Imagine if those numbers related to the chords in the progression, so that you could easily target the changes. Imagine if the pattern didn't change even when you changed keys, and the note numbers, they also stayed the same. And imagine if the pattern worked in both major and minor keys. Imagine how this would free up your brain's resources so that you can focus on your solo. Well, you don't need to imagine anymore, because this is exactly what the BluesBlock method delivers. However, you need to know this. Yes, the BluesBlock is awesome, and it will allow you to navigate up and down the fretboard with ease, target chord changes while playing in any key, but it doesn't guarantee that you'll be able to compose great sounding solos. Think of it like this. Would knowing all of the spices from around the world make you capable of creating inspired international dishes? Of course not. Obviously, knowing your spices is critical, but it's just one part of a more complicated process, like knowing how much to use, when to use and when not to use, as well as knowing other complementary spices. Well, the same concept applies when cooking up a great guitar solo. Knowing all the notes you can use along the neck is essential, but once again, it's only one part of a more complex process. That's why I created a very comprehensive course that uses the BluesBlock as its foundation, but then I go on to teach you how to use it, connect it, combine it, extend it, so that by the end you don't just know the notes, you understand how they relate to each other and to the chords you're playing over. Let me take you through the main points of the course so that you can see if it's a good fit for you. Obviously, we start with the BluesBlock, and then I'll demonstrate the connector pattern, showing you how to use them together to improvise in any key. I'll also show you what I call the Gilmore plugin for creating those more melodic, ballad-style solos. And of course, you'll be doing all of this without having to melt your brain, which means you can really craft your solos, as you will have the capacity to think ahead and chart your next moves, rather than living in survival mode. As you might expect, my lessons are highly visual and animated. There's no talking head spouting complicated jargon leaving you confused and frustrated, as you see with many teachers all over the internet. As a professional educator, I know that teaching a new concept is more effective when using images, animation, and video. Even my guitar is animated. Life is short, and so are my lessons. We're always trying to push back the clock. So each of my lessons has one specific learning goal along with a practice session, keeping you motivated and moving forward, one small, rewarding step at a time. Know this: music theory is your friend. Don't listen to those who tell you it's unnecessary. Of course, you can play without knowing it, but learning just the right amount at the right time opens up so many creative opportunities. Think of it like this: if you only had 3 colors to use for a painting, your options are very limited and your painting's a little monotonous. But just using a simple bit of color theory totally expands your horizons. Hey, did you know you can mix these colors? Just knowing that fundamental concept now gives you millions of colors and options. It's the same with music theory. You don't need to know it all, just enough at the right time. Otherwise, it's like trying to take a sip of water from a fire hydrant. Look, even learning something you love doing can become a little routine, and so I've developed engaging and challenging practice methods that build your skills and creativity, so that depending on the time you have or the mood you're in, you can always practice something that is intentional and constructive, which means you'll always be improving your improvisation skills and practicing whatever you choose. When it comes to practice, I've created unique backing tracks for you that include announced chord changes that help develop your timing and note selections as you improvise. And you can choose to have atmospherics that mimic a live playing situation. The tracks are all inspired by artists such as Eric Clapton, ZZ Top, B.B. King, and Pink Floyd. You'll also have access to specially produced videos that include emotive images for inspiration, and each video starts with a detailed breakdown of the song chords, key, timing, and target notes. These tools make practice fun and constructive. Being actively involved in the learning process is so important for motivation and enjoyment, and I believe that if you're learning to solo and improvise, then that's best done with your guitar in your hands. So I've created modules that provide the opportunity for you to learn a little, see the idea in action, and then it's over to you to try it for yourself. Look, it's not rocket science. You learn to solo by soloing. There's nothing better than learning alongside like-minded people where you can share your breakthroughs and get feedback on your playing. And this course provides a safe, supportive community on a private platform which will help you become more confident in sharing your music. All of this is what you get access to when you sign up.